Hi, I'm Jen.
And I'm Greg.
And welcome to Flights or Growlers.
Today we're back at Epcot International Food and Wine Festival for more flights and ciders. And here we see the monorail going by.
No, I'm not going to use that.
Okay.
The International Food and Wine Festival goes from mid-July 2021 until November 20th. This was recorded in July, but still plenty of time for you to get out and enjoy any of these beverages that might entice you. So we started off our day in the Morocco Pavilion, and we went to the Tangierine Cafe where they have a cider tasting.
The Tangierine Cafe used to be a quick service restaurant at Epcot, but they're using it for a food booth during this festival. They used to sell falafel and other various dishes, but the Morocco Pavilion has recently undergone a change in management, and now it's being used as a festival booth.
Okay, so for the cider tasting today, we have 3 delicious ciders that I was very eager to try, and we decided to sit in the back, kind of the marketplace. None of these shops are really open or were open as of the recording of this video, so there was a lot of empty seating back there available.
So first we had Three Daughters Fig Hard Cider at 5.5 EV from St. Petersburg, Florida. It was golden in color, opaque with creamy head and bubbles. Effervescent apple juice, soft and sweet on the nose. Fig and apple flavors blended on the forefront. It was tart, it was creamy, and it had a sweet finish and a full mouthfeel. Don't get the effervescence you'd expect with all these bubbles. It was kind of reminiscent of a Fig Newton, and it was very appealing and tasty.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. I thought it was, that Fig Newton comparison is pretty apt. It was a really tasty cider. Next up, we had the Bold Rock Ginger Turmeric Hard Cider at 4.7% ABV out of Nelliesford, Virginia. It was pale yellow, clear, with a creamy head and bubbles. It had ginger and spice on the nose, and the nose was delightful. It was bright with spicy undertones and apple aroma. There was sweetness from the apple and tartness on the finish, with spices rounding out the flavor. It had a nice medium mouthfeel, and spices lingered on and on. It was really a great ginger flavor, and would be good with any kind of Indian food, falafel, baklava, any of those flavors. It was delicious.
Yeah, the ginger really cut through, and it was a really delicious drink because of that. Lastly, we tried the Woodchuck Cinnamon Nutmeg Hard Cider. We do not know the ABV at the time, and that's from Middlebury, Vermont. It was pale yellow, had a creamy head, it was clear and had bubbles. There's definitely cinnamon and apple on the nose. It had a medium mouthfeel, and it was kind of like an apple pie filling. It was sweet and tart, and the spices came through. Super sweet on the finish. It was kind of like an applesauce with cinnamon, or it was like dessert in a glass.
Yeah, it really was. It was really kind of sweet, and but not too sweet, not cloyingly sweet. Really just nice and pleasant. Greg, which one of these was your favorite cider in the Morocco Pavilion?
I really liked the Bold Rock Ginger Turmeric Hard Cider. Jen, what about you?
I thought it was a really solid flight overall, and I really did like them all. You're not going to go wrong with any one of these choices, but the Bold Rock Ginger Turmeric Hard Cider, for me, had the edge. Another thing to note here in the Morocco Pavilion, there is a lot of seating in the back of the pavilion, and they've opened up Restaurant Marrakesh in the back, not for food service, not as a restaurant, but kind of as an air-conditioned resting place, dining location. So if you pick up something from the Tangierine Cafe to eat or drink, you are more than welcome to go back into that Restaurant Marrakesh and sit down in some air conditioning. There's no servers, there's no service, but really just a nice place to soak in the air conditioning.
Yeah, and there's a lot of really intricate tile work in this pavilion. It's really a beautiful pavilion. If you ever get a chance to just kind of walk around and check it out, even if you're not going to stop for a cider flight, I highly recommend that.
Yeah, I agree. It's really one of the most detailed and beautiful pavilions. So moving on, we decided to go to the Odyssey Pavilion, and they have their BrewWing booth there, where they actually have 2 different flights. They have a cider flight and a beer flight. So of course we had to try both. We'll start with the cider flight. We started with the Bold Rock Honeycrisp Hard Cider at 4.7% ABV out of Nelliesford, Virginia. It was a very pale color with a big white head. It had pear on the nose and was sweet, but with undertones of sour too. It tasted really crisp and sweet and sour with a medium mouthfeel and a tart finish. It was pretty basic in terms of being a standard cider. It was inoffensive. It was a good starter cider. If you're somebody who's not looking for something terribly complex, I think this is a good place to start. What did you think, Greg?
Yeah, this Bold Rock cider wasn't very memorable to me. I think inoffensive and a good starter is probably a really good way to sum this up. Next, we had the Star Cut Magpie Hard Cider at 4.3% ABV from Bel Air, Michigan. It was light yellow, transparent, and had a white head. There's a sweet and spicy nose. It's like applesauce again, or pie filling. You'd expect it to look cloudy or darker, but it doesn't. It was sweet and spicy with cinnamon, nutmeg, and sweet apple. Thin-bodied, the sweetness definitely lingered with acidity and spices on the finish. We tried to think of things we could marinate in this since it was such an appealing combination of flavors. What did you think, Jen?
Yeah, I really liked this one. It had a complexity of flavor. It was sweet without being artificial tasting. It had a really kind of beautiful finish on it. This one to me was really a winner at this booth. Next up, we had Blake's Apple Lantern Roasted Pumpkin Cider at 6.5% ABV out of Armada, Michigan. This one was very pale, transparent, with a white head and bubbles. There was a hint of sweetness and pumpkin spice on the nose. It was medium-bodied, and I kind of got bananas and apples with a pumpkin spice finish. It was well-balanced apple flavor with pumpkin flavor, and the pumpkin spice on the back of the tongue really came through on the finish. This makes sense for a fall night by the fire. I enjoyed this one. However, we did taste this one in July, so this is one that I would go back to when it starts to feel a little more fall-like and kind of see if I like it even better at that point. What do you think, Greg?
Yeah, I think people that like a pumpkin spice coffee or things like that are absolutely going to love this Apple Lantern Roasted Pumpkin Cider.
So, Greg, what was your favorite of the ciders here at the BrewWing Cider Flight in the Odyssey Pavilion?
I really enjoyed the Magpie Hard Cider. There was just so much going on. It was very complex. And again, I just keep thinking of things you could do with this as a marinade or as a side dish potentially for a meal or dessert.
Yeah,
what about you, Jen?
I love a beer as a side dish. Yeah, for sure. So I too liked the Magpie. I thought that was delicious. The Apple Lantern Roasted Pumpkin was a close second. If it wasn't July, that one probably would have won out.
Excellent. And next, we went with the Brew-Wing Beer Flight. We kicked that off with the Ivanhoe Brewing Pineapple Vibes Blonde Ale at 5% ABV. That's from Orlando, Florida. Have you been to Ivanhoe Brewing?
I have been to Ivanhoe Brewing, and we will put a link to that video in the description down below.
That's what I thought. Great. This beer was golden in color, transparent, had a white head, and it was barely bubbly. There was a malty grain on the nose with a hint of pineapple, medium-bodied and crisp with roasted malt and a subtle pineapple flavor, as I just mentioned. It had kind of a good cracker flavor. There's definitely that blonde flavor that pulled through with the faint hint of pineapple. It was very, very pleasant to drink. What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, I think pleasant is the right word. This was just overall, I kind of vibed with this. It was very nice, easy, drinkable, and just a nice, pleasant experience.
Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Next up, we had the Central 28 Groveland Road Blood Orange IPA at 6% ABV. This one is actually 50 IBU, the International Bitterness Units, and this is out of DeBerry, Florida. This one was dark gold, it was cloudy, and it didn't have much of a head. It had a citrus nose, and the orange rind flavor overpowered the bitter hops coming through on the nose. The hops really hit up front. The citrus flavor was less pronounced than suggested in the aroma, and the citrus and hops lingered into the finish. For me, this was bitter with just a hint of citrus, and I'm going to be honest, I hated it. What did you think, Greg?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of blood orange flavor in general, and it was just kind of an odd mixture of the bitterness from the IPA and that blood orange tartness, so wasn't my favorite of the flight either. But next, we moved on to Wicked Weed Watermelon Dragon Fruit Session Sour at 4.5% ABV from Asheville, North Carolina. This was a pink berry color. It was translucent, it had a foamy head, a sweet and fruity aroma, and it kind of reminded me of Kool-Aid. It was fruit forward with medium mouthfeel. There was a strong watermelon flavor that hit right away. So if you like watermelon flavored gum or things like that, or Jolly Ranchers, it was definitely that in beer. It does mellow as it finishes, and even though it's listed as a session sour, it wasn't very sour. Jen?
Yeah, this one was, to me, it was just okay. Nothing really stands out to me, kind of forgettable for me. This is not one that I would immediately go to. You know, the problem I have with it is the watermelon flavor is so pronounced on this, and dragon fruit traditionally, if you eat dragon fruit, is very subtle. So it's to combine them naturally, that dragon fruit is going to get overpowered. So I didn't get a whole lot of that dragon fruit in this beer, but you know, if you're into sours, definitely worth a try. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe it just didn't hit me right.
Would you say that the watermelon is pronounced and the dragon fruit is subtle?
Yes, I would, Greg.
Awesome.
That's exactly what I would say. So which of these was your favorite?
My favorite was the Ivanhoe Pineapple Vibes Blonde. This festival has a lot of really good blonde beers in it if you get around to all the booths. I'm a fan of blonde beer, but again, this was another great blonde beer at this booth. Jen, what about you?
Yeah, I agree. You know, I'm finding out that Ivanhoe is probably one of my go-to breweries. I have not disliked anything that they have done. I really enjoyed my trip there. I enjoy everything that they are featuring here at Epcot. And I do love a good blonde and featuring the fruit with that as well. This is the one, if I had brought a growler, if they did growler fills, which they don't, I would definitely take a growler of this one home.
Yeah. So we sat in the dining area when we tried this, but there's an Epcot presentation in this pavilion too that shows all of the new stuff that's coming to Epcot. It's got some fun music and some cool effects. So if you've got an extra 5 to 10 minutes, that's kind of a cool thing to check out while you're here too.
Yeah, definitely check out that Epcot Experience. It's kind of a preview center for the things that they're building up in Epcot in the coming future. I did also want to say, these are not the only beers and ciders available at this pavilion. They do have canned beer, and they have a really nice wide selection. So if you're just looking to get a can of, I don't know, Bell's Oberon or a different kind of cider, something along those lines, those are available here as well. So just wanted to point that out. You don't have to just go with the beers and the ciders that are in the flight. They do have full cans of different selections available as well.
Yep, those are just, what we tried was just what they had on draft. So that's going to do it for us today from our part 2 of Epcot Food and Wine Festival for 2021. If you like what you see, please hit the like button or subscribe down below, as it really does help us out.
Yeah, we appreciate your likes, subscribes, and if you'd like to be notified when we put new videos out, please click that notification bell as well. For Flights or Growlers, I'm Jen.
And I'm Greg, and we'll see you at the brewery.